I'm going to kind of show you guys how I do my squat and some of the tricks that I've learned to help me increase my squat. Is if you notice, I like to set the bar kind of like kind of low towards my chest a little bit. First thing I always do is make sure the bar is kind of at that spot, and then I always check my hands. That way, you use the rings to kind of measure out where you put your hands. That way, the middle knurling of the bar is always in the middle of your back. Second thing is walk out, set your feet, and then squat, right? So I'm going to show you guys how it looks like from the back side and kind of how that little dip that I do. So again, hands on the rings. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to show you guys like the three different positions that you can put on the back. A lot of people prefer, or a lot of the Olympic lifters like to do a high bar squat, which is right there, almost kind of like on your traps. Some powerlifters like to do this where they put it super duper low. This is like a ultra low squat, but for me, I like to move it up just a little bit higher, right underneath the spine of the scapula, where it sits on my rear delts. What I like to do is I like to dip my chest forward and then really squeeze my upper back together, kind of like what you do on a bench press. Once that's tight and there's weight on the bar, because the weight's on your back, it's easier for you to keep that tension as you pick it up. That way you don't lose tightness in your back as you get ready for your squat. Now, again, I'm going to do the same thing, set up. Once I pick it up, I like to take as few steps as possible, so 3 to 4 steps max. Once you get set, I take a huge breath, squeeze my stomach, and then I squeeze my quads, my glutes, abs, everything as tight as I can, almost like I want to crunch my body all together. And when I feel that tightness all around my whole body, then I perform the squat. So if you notice, like every time I warm up or every time I set up for a new weight, it's always going to look the same. I'm going to set up, get tight, and I don't rush anything, because if you're strong enough to do the squat, or the weight that you put on, then there shouldn't be a problem of you picking it up, walking it out, and setting up. So this is something good to practice. That way you have like the same rituals over and over again. That way when you go to the meet, it feels very natural. You don't want to change anything. It's kind of like for golfers or tennis players, right? They practice that perfect swing every time. That way they can get the perfect spike or the perfect hit that they want. Lifters need to do the same thing. We need to practice the same movements over and over again. That way it becomes natural. And if you notice, I want to try to keep my knees out as much as possible. A lot of powerlifters like to stress, sit back. But for me, what I like to do is when I set, I like to make sure that my feet are, pointed out maybe 30 to 40 degrees out. And all I try to do is move my knees towards the same direction as the way my toes are pointed out. And this is a lot easier for me to realize when I go down on a squat. That way it doesn't get too complicated by doing the sit back, 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 back. I just kind of break my knees and keep it towards kind of pointing towards my toes. And that's how I do my squats. It's kind of similar. I like to set the bar a little bit lower than normal. That way I could kind of use the shortness of the height of the bench to kind of really push down against, so I could really squeeze my upper back a little bit better. So again, first things first, I always put my fingers lined up perfectly on the rings. I like to put my middle finger on the ring. Second thing I like to do is I like to bring my legs back and then arch underneath the bar. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the squat rack and the bench, wherever the bar is at, is I'm going to push against it and really push my upper back down into the bench. And if it doesn't feel comfortable or even when I'm squeezing my shoulder blades together and my traps, then I just keep squeezing it or move it back and forth until it feels comfortable. Once that's comfortable, because I'm on my tippy toes when I first set up for my bench, all I do is I slide my toes all the way up until my feet are flat on the bench. Once my feet is flat on the bench, what I like to do is, or when I get done setting up, my eyes is directly underneath the bar. So this is a very hard position to lift off the weight by yourself. So if you notice, I like to roll the bar forward a little bit. So when it's rolled down, it's closer towards my chin, and when it's closer towards my chin, it's easier to lift off. The reason why I do that is so every time I bench press, I don't hit the clip on the squat rack, and that could be kind of dangerous if you don't do that. So if you notice, once I squeeze my upper back, I bring the bar out and my feet are flat. Once I bring the weight up, the weight itself is sitting right on top of me. So what I like to do then, because the hardest part for me on a bench press is to squeeze my glutes. So once the weight is right above the line of my chest where I like to press, I like to bring my butt back just a little bit, and once I bring my butt back, I squeeze my glutes as tight as possible. Once it's tight, then again, it's the same process as a squat. Big breath, stay tight. Once the full body's tight, I bring the bar down, and once the bar hits, I push from my heels, and that's kind of like a motion where it travels all the way up to my hamstrings and my quads, and as I feel that, it transfers through my glutes to my core all the way up into the press. So this is my actual set of 220 for 5 sets of 5, and I'm going to show you guys the exact same thing. First thing, fix your hand positioning. So I'm gonna scoot back a little bit and bring my feet really back. I'm gonna stay on my toes. I'm gonna arch underneath and really plant my upper back, my traps, and my shoulder blades into the bench. Once it feels comfortable, I slide my feet until it's flat. I roll the bar down towards my chin. Visualize the bench, pick it up. Once it's picked up, I scoop my butt just a little bit. Big breath, bring it down, boom, squeeze. So if you notice, like my hamstrings and my quads are flexed throughout the entire movement when I do the bench press. And once the bar comes down, I push from my heels, and you can kind of see the energy just kind of transfer all the way up until lockout. A way to wrap your wrist wraps a little bit better or tighter. I actually learned this from my good friend, Coach Charlie Connor. I saw him do this, and I guess mimic him. So technically, the credit goes to him. So you got your wrist wraps. What you do is you wrap it around your wrist, and you just keep it here. Whenever you're done, just keep it just like that, but very loose. So every time you see me train, I'm always gonna have my wrist wraps wrapped around my wrist, but just fairly loose, kind of like this. So I'm just gonna wrap it around, right? And then, as soon as I'm done, or as soon as I'm getting ready for my set, what I do is I pull this strap and I hold it, because at a competition you can't put it on your thumb like this. So I don't know why people like doing this. There's no point in doing that. It's a waste of time. So what I do is I pull it, hold it in here, and then this wrap, I'm gonna wrap it around this hand, just like that, right? And then as I go, torque down, wrap it around, and wrap it around. That way, if you're ever, nervous or something at a meet or something, you're never gonna forget where your wrist wraps are, because they're already around your wrist, right? Again, this is the hand that's already wrapped. I'm gonna lightly wrap it around that hand and then torque it. 1, 2, 3, and number 4 right there. And it's super tight. You ready for my set? All right, just got done with my bench and squat.
about to do my accessories, but just remember that, you know, all the tips and all the, you know, all the fancy stuff that you guys learn, you know, the best way to get stronger and the best way to get better each time when you guys come to the gym is, again, experimentation. You know, not everybody has like the same leg lengths, arm lengths, you know, arch height, you know, stuff like that. And these are just some of the things that I developed over, you know, years of training and just experimenting. You know, I did get a few tips here and there, and, you know, it did help me along the way. But, you know, along with those tips, I kind of experimented with what works best for me. So again, you know, if it doesn't work for you, even if it's coming from, you know, one of the best power lifters or, you know, lifters in the world, then it ain't for you. All right, just remember that. There's a reason why some of the best lifters in the world are the best lifters in the world, because, you know, they developed their own technique, their own rituals, their own, you know, just setup and stuff like that. So just keep in mind, if you truly want to get better, you know, get tips from lifters who, you know, done their homework, who's got credibility. But at the end of the day, just remember that those tips aren't always going to work for you. You gotta take what they say, try it in the gym. If it feels comfortable, then keep it. If you like what they say and it doesn't feel comfortable and you can modify it to where you like it, then keep their tips. But if it doesn't work, like I said, throw it out the window. All right, this is your journey, this is your life. You know, you can only do the best that you can, not what somebody else tells you what you can do. All right, so just keep that in mind.
You always got to remember, there's always going to be one person out there in the world that's going to work hard. You know, he's going to try to beat you. And for every moment that you think that you're too tired to finish your set, too tired to do your reps, too tired to do your ab work or your squat work, just remember that the day when you meet him and you lose, you'll know that he worked harder than you did. So I always hear people complain about how genetics is the reason why they can't do something, or money is the reason why they can't do something. And I just want to say, if you go day in and day out to go lift, and you know, you want to complain about how genetics is the reason why you can't squat 500 pounds, or money is the reason why you can't compete, well, sucks for you. Because at the end of the day, if you're not willing to sacrifice to get where you want to be, then you're always going to be where you're at. So a friend once told me, you know, something that motivates him when he gets in the gym is, you know, he remembers what he used to be, you know, 3 to 5 years ago. And what keeps him motivated to always come in the gym is because he never ever wants to be that same person that he used to be back in the day. Or you can say he doesn't want to be that loser that he used to be. So the reason why he comes in and day out is because he never wants to be the same person that he used to be.